Hello, Business and Banking Dialogue. A warm welcome to all my participants across EPS channels in YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook to your one-stop show, which gives you incisive analysis on a topic of interest from the world of finance and payments. I am KK, your host and moderator. Today's topic of discussion will be on the topic of public policy, reproducing UPI and DBT public policy models in the non-financial sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very interesting topic. Only when you hear the word public policy, it looks a little okay. Whatever, it looks like a boring topic. It's not. It's really not. It's a very, very interesting topic, and it kind of affects everyone's life. You, me, and everyone in the country. Okay. So, what is public? So, public policy in India has frequently been characterized by a failure to anticipate needs, impacts, or reaction which could have reasonably been foreseen, thus impeding economic development. So policies have been reversed or changed more frequently than warranted by exogenous changes or new information that the government got subsequently. So in a country like India, with diverse culture, language, wide income parity, and population spread into inaccessible areas, public policy making is much more a complex task than maybe perhaps other countries. So to talk to us about public policy and how a very successful UPI and DBT, these are two very, very successful public policy means which is used by you and me is so successfully done. Okay, so we will look at how UPI and DBT models got implemented for public use, and using the same model can we implement many more policies which is good for public use. So to discuss this today we have Mr. Sambamurthy. He has been our guest in our earlier shows, which you all have appreciated very well. So briefly, Mr. Murthy was Executive Director of Indian Bank, Chairman of Corporation Bank till 2008. His details are right in front of you. You could read his his profile. I'm giving a very brief profile about him. He later became the CEO of IDRBT, which managed the gateway for NEFT RTGS besides NFS for Reserve Bank of India. So he has been in the forefront of some of the important payment systems which we all are using today. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Murthy. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Mr. KK.
Thank you, and welcome to this show, sir. UPI and DBT have become indisputable global model for payment systems. In fact, the Google's Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Policy, Mark Iskowitz, wrote to the Federal Reserve Bank that they should follow the successful model of UPI-based digital payment system built in India. So that's the kind of reputation. Good reputation that UPI has got. Okay, so he also added that UPI was thoughtfully planned and critical aspects of its design led to its success. So my question to you, sir, do you agree that the disruptive power of India payment stack was the key success factor for widespread adoption of UPI and DBT?
Fine, KK, thank you for having me again. I think
welcome, sir.
The UPI and DBT, I think, are two probably outstanding achievements that have put India, I think, in the forefront of the payment systems. It's even all big techs all over the world, I think probably for the first time, they stand up and they took notice of these two important developments and all. So we have done, of course, is a wonderful, outstanding success, I think, in recent times, in public policy, I would say, number one. Yeah. Number two, you refer to public policy as we go along, we discuss, but let me say the end in the beginning. To my mind, a dynamic and smart public policy makes a difference between a rich country and a poor country. So we'll see as we go along. UPI and DBT are two classic examples of this. So UPI, of course, it has been beaten down, I think, by the media, by everyone and all that, in the sense that so much is written and all that. But let us quickly recap of what is that UPI has done. And then, is that the end, or just only somewhere we are in the middle or the beginning? It's not that as we arrived in terms of digital payments. Number two, I think we should not see payments as a standalone kind of service. It's a part of, I think, overall financial life of any citizen, of any institution for that matter. So coming back to UPI, I think last month, I think we clocked 1.45 billion transactions just for 1 month. That is the run rate. And then just in a matter of just 3 years, or even the real launch, if you take it, is less than 3 years. Still a lot way to come, and 2.5 lakh crores, I think, was the turnover that was done last month. So what has helped us to achieve this kind of stupendous success? One, of course, is the wonderful ecosystem that NPCI has built around this UPI. And of course, the India stack is also some elements of India stack also probably have helped. Number two, I think probably the first case of this scale, where we had wonderful collaboration between fintech and the banks and the NPCI from day one. And then third element that made this outstanding success is the micropayments. So as compared to RTGS, of course, is wholesale B2B transactions mostly. Even as compared to other NEFT or IMPS, the average transaction value is much less. You can do even 5 rupees to 2 lakh rupees at the same cost. And then number of use cases. While RTGS purely the business oriented, even NEFT also 50-60% was business oriented. And of course, it was not instant real payment system when it started. Now, of course, we have gone to 24/7. It caters to the domestic sector, it caters to the social sector, it caters to even the personal payments. So all these, a very wide spectrum of use cases around all these three domains has helped to achieve this kind of volumes and scale. And then, of course, I think we should not forget the fact that payments for a long time, I think it is driven by huge incentives that are given by the app providers, especially, not by the banks, but mostly the app providers. Maybe that was a very aggressive customer acquisition strategy, because this is probably for them also a beginning. But I'm not sure how long these incentives would continue, the organization can sustain, unless they have some other business models. And these aggressive models are again by big tech, 3-4 big tech, which we know. Yeah. And these are all the hard factors. But let me also tell the soft factor. The environment within NPCI, inside NPCI, highly aspirational kind of targets right from day one. So in fact, I think you had asked, somebody asked, I think, Mr. Hota, are you surprised with this kind of success when you launched? Did you probably anticipate? From day one, I think the kind of aspirations that he has set in inside. So almost, I think every time we meet, we used to talk of either exponential growth, or we used to talk how far we have reached that we should touch every Indian. That was his favorite aspiration for a long time. Yeah. And then we also used to talk, not now, those days, a citizen scale, $1 billion a day, when will we arrive? So I don't think NPCI is overwhelmed by this kind of volumes that we have seen. I think you are going to see much more huge volume. Looks like 1 billion a day looks like a tall order. But let me tell you, when we were in IDRBT, I think 9 years ago, and then we had one general manager, Raghuraz and Patrick Kishore. So they had cut a cake. I asked him why. They called me. He said, let us have a cake. Cut the cake, sir. I asked him why. Sir, we have crossed 5 million NEFT this month. So I told him, probably after 2 years, we have to do it every day. This is the kind of targets we do. Today, we have seen people talk in billions. Any digital payment, they don't talk in millions and all. So I think this is a wonderful journey. But what the potential that we have, I think, ahead of us is much more than what we have now. See, today, if you probably dig deeper into this, the transaction volume, we have hardly about 100 million unique customers, or even less than that, because different people are giving different figures and all. But the highest I heard is about 100 million unique customers. But you juxtapose these 100 million, Jan-Dhan accounts itself are 390 million. We have more than 400 internet connections, 4 to 500 million internet connections. We have about 400 million smartphones, because the UPI works on smartphone only. And then we have got 600 million feature phones. And then so given this kind of opportunity that is available platform, but why we have reached this 1.4 billion? Because of the wonderful use cases that we have. Even recently I've seen AutoPay is launched, and then the EMI is launched. So many facilities, almost every day they launch something. But this will increase the frequency, but this will not widen and broaden the user base. So the key to achieve much more higher figures, I think, lies in probably using the unique user base from 100 million. Next step, maybe 200 million in the next 1 year, and another 100 million by next year. Because if you see, even at least if all Jan-Dhan accounts, because they're already mapped to Aadhaar, they're already mapped to their own this thing. So for that, they'll have to bring down the application from smartphones to feature phones. So where most of our rural populations use. So that is another key. If you're able to develop an application which can run on feature phone. Even today it runs on feature phone, but that runs on USSD channel, which is where there's a lot of friction. There's commercial issues. That USSD is basically a channel for the telecom networks, not meant for a public use like this. So given this kind of huge opportunity that is available and all that, and I'm sure by next year, of course, they talk of WhatsApp coming up on board, and then maybe others also coming up on board. So I expect maybe at 2 billion, they would cross in 1 year, 2 billion a month. And then there'll be really an inflection point and a big jump there afterwards. So at least I think they will reach, my sense is maybe on festival occasions, that somewhere close to 1 billion transactions they would achieve. So even if you take China, they've got something like 700 million unique users, more or less, not much of difference in population, maybe 10% and all that. So I think the next target for NPCI is the citizen scale in the sense that our community scale that they talk about, where probably daily volume of transactions will be equal to the size of the population. So another huge opportunity is that, the rural population, we have about 600 million people, right, actively engaged. So, and then they're not new to technology. Most of them are using AEPS, which is basically, of course, assisted ATM kind of channel. So they're not new to this kind of thing. And then another opportunity for them, I think they to slowly move AEPS to UPI. AEPS is very transaction heavy channel. So I think last year itself, I've seen some figures. They've drawn something like about 1 lakh crores in all these 6 lakh villages, where we have about almost close to 3 lakh business correspondents. I think that's where AEPS, they've got to make efforts to see that it moves to UPI. But again, it depends on feature phone, and also it depends on building huge acceptance infrastructure. They also need to probably disincentivize ATM still further so that they go digital. And of course, there are other issues, basically, if you look at this acceptance, there is a huge gap between acceptance infrastructure and issuance infrastructure. For instance, we have close about 950 million cards up. But whereas when we see the acceptance infrastructure in the merchants, we are still struggling. We are still about 4 or 5 million, whereas it's 20 to 30 million kind of small merchant establishment there available there. So I think we need to focus more on acceptance infrastructure is another area. Of course, Reserve Bank of India has recently announced setting up about 500 crore fund. So they need to change the game. Of course, we have a QR code as well, which makes it much more faster, cost effective and all. And of course, there are 2, 3 issues that that come in the way of, I think, faster expansion of the infra is the MDR issue. I think is a big issue. Yeah. But in terms of business model, the fintechs, I think that they look at the unit economics, right? I don't think, whereas the traditionally banks and financial institutions, they look at customer pricing, consumer pricing, not product pricing, because they would like to have a bundle of products sold to that. It's nothing new. Even when the physical world, I'm sure we remember when somebody wants a demand draft and all that concessional rates, we used to look at what total business he gives us. And payment was never considered as a kind of a separate revenue stream. It's, I think, but there is a friction between fintech and the conventional business model. And then, of course, once the big tech enters, still, I think WhatsApp and all that, I think there are issues. I mean, I don't know whether they're started up. There'll be a big jump in the network effect. So network effect in the sense, if you have more users, the value of the network also goes up, right? So you'll have more transaction value. So what we are talking is this, let us not be carried away these 1.4 billion per month and all. What I'm trying to tell you is that this is wonderful achievement, absolutely no doubt about it. It's commendable. I think we need to probably compliment all the stakeholders who have made this possible in the shortest possible time. And then, of course, as the big tech enters it, there are pros and cons of it. They would bring use volumes, they would bring network effect. But I think one has to be mindful of issues of competition, domination, and all that. Okay, even in the US, all these big tech face a lot of issues from the US Congress. There's a lot of pushback there, and I'm due. And then much broader impact that will be there if we can create 1 billion consumers, both offline and online, if you're able to do that. Because if you have only 100 million consumers, instead of that you have 1 billion consumers, of course, that's much more bigger issue of the model of economic development that we have. So I think these are few thoughts. And then I may also mention you, when you talk of one of the big issues is the identity management and authentication management. Aadhaar has addressed these issues very successfully. Yeah. But I think some countries are going far ahead. I think, for instance, you would have seen Sweden. They're implanting chips inside the hands. So you don't need any kind of identity authentication, no form factor and all. And last time when I saw the report, about 10,000 people have already got a chip implanted in their hands, which is used for not merely for the payments, but also for other public services as well. I think that's where the world is moving. So I think these kind of developments, I think I'm sure would probably remove a lot of bottlenecks that come in the way of achieving citizen scale. And I'm sure that a lot of people are skeptical whenever I talk of citizen scale, but I'm confident. I can't put a date to it. I can't say it'll happen 2023, 2024. It depends on a lot of dynamics and all. So I think outstanding success of UPI, but a lot more to be tapped. To be done. That's my sense.
Right. So, yeah, I think to take the 10,000 chips put in the hand in Sweden, it sounds like some kind of sci-fi movie, you know. We used to have those kind of sci-fi movies coming out, and that's kind of becoming a reality out there. Yes. So one question I had out here, sir, is that from increasing the number of, we said the Jandan, we have about 390 million, and we have some 400 to 500 million internet users. All have shown great growth trajectory. Okay, including smartphones, we have a great trajectory. Now, when you said 100 million customers are the unique customers, you have any idea on, is there a growth that is happening on a year-to-year basis or something in the number of customers, or is it the same customers? Is there a kind of a headwind out there, or is there is no room for maneuvering beyond that 100? Because if that's the case, then reaching a billion a day looks a little far-fetched.
Yes. No, that's why I said, we need to probably, and I'm sure there'd be growth, but of course, the numbers are not publicly available. I'm sure NPCI may be tracking whatever. Yeah. So if you have more of app providers, you have more of these consumers coming on it. So that's why I tell that we need to do, how do we bring more unique customers on board in addition to that? That's why I told you, you probably have UPI version on feature phone. And I'm sure you will add 100 million in 1 year, new customers. And then it's a big change because you can move them from AEPS, Aadhaar-based payment system, to UPI. So today what is happening is DBT, only one side is digital, credit is digital, but debit is all cash. And I'm sure even in Nandan Nilekani report last year, which he has given to RBI, he also flagged this issue. There is a huge gap between debit and credit. While credit is digital, debit is cash. So, and it costs a lot of money to move this cash to about 6 lakh villages, and then other attendant risks and then efficiency. So ultimately, you can bring all these small shops wherever they want to buy them. UPI, QR code and all, I am telling you, the adoption is fantastic. I think last time also I've told you, even Kalawala across my road, you would say that give me Paytm, Google Pay or UPI, NEF kind of a thing. Even my Dobi, he says you can pay me Paytm or whatever, wallets or UPI. So everyone, even paper wala takes it, the doodh wala takes it. In fact, my doodh wala always asks me to pay me even through NEFT. That's kind of familiarity that these people have. Sometimes you have a problem, connectivity problem and all that. So I think that's another area, because another, the other question you had asked is about DBT. DBT is another outstanding success. That's where I think your Google Vice President has recommended to this, because I think US, when they have given this, the checks, to help all these unemployed and all that, I understand all the checks were in the pipeline, they were all stuck up. They took days and weeks for them to clear the checks. That's where I think in this context, he said, why not we have a direct benefit transfer or UPI, which India is so successful have done. I think we should be proud of that kind of fact. See, if you talk of DBT, our context is slightly different. I'm sure all of us remember the lament by Rajiv Gandhi somewhere in 1985, almost 35 years ago, where he publicly admitted when he was Prime Minister that whatever government subsidies, handouts are given to poor people, only 15% reach the people, beneficiaries. I mean, it took 40 years for us, almost maybe 35 years for us to address this issue. That's where I'll come to that public policy issues. What is coming in the way? I think in most of these cases, we know what the problems are, but I think somewhere finding solution and implementation, that's where the big issue of public policy. You see that DBT, it started just 2013-14, hardly 28 crores was the transfer. Come to 1920, you would be surprised to know that what DBT platform transferred 2.7 lakh crores. In just about 5 years, 28, not 1,028 crores plain to 2.7 lakh crores. Another outstanding success. And they say cumulative transfer is something like 11.58 lakh crores so far. And then the government itself says in the website, they've saved something like 1.7 lakh crores. Of course, we don't know the breakup, how much is due to optimization, how much is due to plugging the leakages there. The system. But anyway, that I think a huge kind of thing. But again, from a public policy perspective, I think government should not see how much we have saved. But more than that, probably I think how do you lift these people out of poverty so that we don't have to repeatedly give these freebies or handouts. And even they would not like to have, they would like to have employment opportunity or business opportunity rather than these your freebies. Of course, if you see that major amount is going towards fertilizers, petroleum, and Narega, of course, these three schemes account for almost 70% of what we do. So these two things, I think, while we say that outstanding success, but DBT, we need to look at beyond plumbing. So initially, of course, and Mr. Nandan Nilekani also used to say that is a great plumbing opportunity, a lot of savings, whatever probably he has visualized. I think we are seeing those gains. So I think that's the story of so far as DBT and UPI is concerned.
Yeah, great, sir. So I think that's a good observation that has come from Nandan, that we have all the credits, but where are the we have all the credits, but where are the debits going? So debits are not happening, and that happens, that itself will generate, a lot many more transactions to come. So we talked about UPI DBT success, and there's no doubt about it. Whatever the number is, it's a great success. People who have thought about it at NPCI, RBI, everywhere, uh, people like you have really pushed this across. Now, there is an underlying technology at that point of time, which was what we call as a disruptive technology. Okay, so that really has actually taken us across. So, let us hear from you a critical analysis, the factors that shaped the DBT and UPI revolutions.
Sure, I think. Let me talk to you about the more conceptual issue, and I will then share some of the actors involved in this. I think it's important that we know, so that other sectors can also pick up. We should not be confined to only the financial services sector. Even within the financial, it's all payments. I mean, 90% of the benefit is only in the payment domain, but not in the other areas. So how do we replicate this kind of success in other? I think is what we need to discuss. So the other day I was just reading some literature. What is the difference between poor country and rich country, or rather, how poor countries can become rich countries, or how poor countries have already become rich countries? Number one, they say there should be productivity explosion across all sectors: agriculture, industry, and then the services sector. So we need to see the UPI and the DBT in that context. How does it help the productivity explosion in all these three domains? And then second is, they also say that if you want to become a developed country, you need three fundamental things, building blocks. Number one is well-functioning financial system. Second is the primary education. Third is the primary health care. So if a country develops these three, I think that is the probably building blocks. That is the way for a poor country to become a rich country and reduce poverty to a significant scale. Of course, we say that we have reduced poverty, but poverty in terms of calorie intake, or poverty in terms of very, I would say that crude definition of less than $2 a day or $1.9 a day. But there are other multiple dimensions of poverty, and the multiple dimensions are this financial inclusion, education, and healthcare. So I think if you address these three issues, I think we become a rich country. And it is necessary for us to do all these things. So earlier there used to be debate, we can do all these healthcare, education after become probably a rich country. But I think that doesn't work that way. Even that is the secret of success. Even in China, we were almost more or less same level in 70s. Even early 80s, both of us have some $300 billion GDP, now where we are. So, of course, they are not a democratic country, we are a democratic country, so that is the issue. So East democracy also is, can't we do that? But if we see the Western countries, they've all grown because of the liberal democracies, not because of any autocracy or any kind of dictatorship that they have. Classic example is South Korea, North Korea. But so what is the difference that makes? To me, it's a public policy. Even today, if you little stretch UPI and DBT, you will find traces of public policy. So I've sent some slides. Can I show them, number one?
Yeah. Yes, please, go ahead.
No, wait. I need to do that, or?
Yeah, you can. You have been given the...
Okay, let me see.
Okay, here it is. Here it's come on the screen.
Right, thank you. So the biggest problem for us, if you want to be a developed country, I think it's about fixing our public policy issue, public policy. So what is the problem in all that? See, basically, there are three models, they say. One is the linear model, as you can see, where the practitioners, or the people who are probably are in this business of delivering services, products, and all that, they would suggest to policymaker, you say that do this, do that, and all that. Then they evaluate the policy choices. If it is a state-centered focus, then there'll be technocrats, bureaucrats, and state actors. We are not talking of the private one. We are basically talking of public policy making, not a private policy. Yeah. And then the policy choices are made, alternatives are given, and then goes for implementation. Then you have a policy outcome. This model has failed in most of these countries. Not merely in India, we have been also following this policy for a long time. The problem in this is there is no feedback loop. So the policy outcome doesn't, on a real-time basis, doesn't say the implementation doesn't say the policy, the choices. The result that often we find a debate, the policymakers probably blame the executioners, implementers, oh, you did not implement properly, it's an execution problem, not a strategy problem. The implementers blame the policymakers, no, this is a very faulty policy, not viable policy. So it doesn't go back. So the result that it remains in each of these blocks. This is one model, probably most of them are following, including India, for a very long time. And then next one. This is the second model, which is called, I think these are all political scientists have given, I don't know where the source is, I've given that. Stages of model policy making. So first is the issue, ultimately the politicians and public representatives, they identify problems of the people, they want to find solutions, otherwise they cannot get re-elected, right? So they drive the agenda, and then it goes to the decision phase, and then goes to the implementation phase. But again, the problem is the agenda phase, people have got a choice either to accept the agenda or not accept it. After accepting it, goes to decision. Again, decision phase, you can say yes or no, goes to implementation, goes to yes or no. All these three boxes, they work in a standalone mode. And most of these policies get derailed, either at decision phase or the implementation phase. So this is another model of policy making, which we have been following. I'll give some examples and all. Next one. So this is what the latest model that, I mean, not latest, actually, this is a Kingdom model. He has published it in 1984 and then revised it in 2005. He has gone for a stream kind of approach. He said there are three streams in a public policy. So there is a problem stream. So politicians would identify a problem, or the practitioners would identify a problem, then goes to the policy stream, and then goes to the political stream. Here, the beauty is all three converge, they connect to each other. All the three connect to each other. So I think this is the way forward for public policy. So if you ask me the UPI has followed this public policy model because Aadhaar was the base. I can share with you. I think you also referred to earlier. So even DBT, you know that was from 1985, we have been debating how to stop the leakages, right? Yep. We have been debating for 20, 30 years how to have the probably digital payments. Digital India is not something new. I think even Rajiv Gandhi was one of the probably strong advocates those times, but it was followed with various degrees of success. But of course, the present Prime Minister has gone whole log for the digital India. So that is where we find some success in these areas. So here, what happens is here, you have got three actors here. The problem is any public policy, you have got a lot of public intellectuals, right? So they have got an opinion on every subject. They can talk to you on healthcare, education, temple issue, constitutional issue, a local issue, and any issue you talk, they have an opinion and all that. And then you have a number of technocrats. But the issue is that who would take a decision? They can give you good input. They're subject matter experts. Then there is a media. There are think tanks. There are NGOs. So in fact, this is the model even Nandan Nilekani has referred to recently. He did not tell me, did not share that point of time, of course. So we jokingly used to say that, I mean, a lot of people, there is really called con market mafia, no? That Delhi con market mafia.
Yes.
So they say that, so 7 to 8, you know, they will talk of education, 8 to 9, they'll talk of healthcare, 9 to 10, they'll talk of constitution. And maybe 10 to 11, they talk of Francis Fukuyama's New World Order. So you can talk, I mean, all these, there'll be politicians, there'll be technocrats, there'll be senior bureaucrats, all kinds of people, you know, that gather. But problem is that nobody is connecting that these three streams. First model we have seen, it go in a linear model, absolutely no one probably activist talk to the other. There is absolutely no feedback. So that's why we have these, you know, problems with the policies we follow. Even today, education policy, if you take, We had an education policy, Qatari Commission in 1968. Then we had another one in 82, then we had in 90s, and we had in 2000 and now. So the problem is not lack of experts or any of these areas. And problem is, supposing the politicians are supposed to identify a problem and find a solution there to push the agenda. Then what happens is it will go to the bureaucracy. So they will have a committee. In the committee, you will have subject matter experts, they'll technocrats, there'll be academicians, right? There'll be think tanks, there'll be NGOs, and then of course, interdisciplinary bureaucrats from various departments and all. But again, when once you go to the decision phase, that takes itself about years and years together. So that is a big issue. Today, if UPI is a success, if DBT is a success, because all the three streams converged. And who converged? It's one individual who has converged. If there are three individuals, it would have been difficult. That one individual is Mr. Nandan Nilekani. He may agree or not, but that's how I see it. Because when I see various developments that have taken place over the last 3-4 years, because if you see UPI, there was no committee at all. Let me tell you, either at NPCI or at government or at RBI. So he has identified the problem. So he was there in the problem stream. In fact, he sat with a number of bankers and all that. It made a presentation that, we need to probably go for a mobile-based payment system, which is instant, which is real-time, online. And then it is not enough if you have a design a product. Somebody has to probably make a policy and agree to it. So again, he himself interacted with the regulators, with the government, with all the agencies that are concerned, of course, with NPCI, and then a big backing of fintech that he has got. And then the political stream, yes, he could connect to the people at Delhi, because given his credentials, given his knowledge, given his expertise, given his demonstrated performance in the area of technology. So public policy, if you want any kind of success, you want the kind of UPI success or DBT success in a short period of time, and these are all important for us to become a developed country, we need to probably seriously look at Indian streams model. Right? So the public policy is one, I think it played an very important role, this UPI and DBT. So basically once all these three issues started, that window of opportunity fell on NPCI labs. So NPCI, that of course, they got a very dynamic management structure there. So they picked it up, and the board also, in no time, that backed it up. And then you will be surprised to know, even the solution, the UPI solution was done probably at a fraction of cost. What other applications would have been developed? I don't know to say that. And this is developed by a small company, not a very big tech company and all. The windows of opportunities are there, not that we need to go to Google's and the big tech companies to have these solutions. And then it's based out of Calcutta, of all the places, not we think of Silicon Valley of India. But of course, so here, the India stack and Mr. Nandan Nilekani, probably he designed, he also helped in the policy making, and is also ultimately the political stamp is required for us to go ahead and all that.
Yeah.
So all these things are combined. If only probably we follow this model in healthcare, in education, and I'm sure, I think it makes a huge difference to our country's status and the standard of living of our people. Next slide. Is that okay? Am I clear?
Yeah.
So of course, I've said, give you some examples where we are. This is the kind of public policy making many countries have got. This is not, I've not borrowed from our country. This is, I got it from a country which is suffering a similar fate, right? So you have so many actors. So because there is no depth of intellect in this country. Do you see even media debates and all? So same guys come, you see some seminars, any talks, that management talks, leadership talks, politics talks, right from literature to, I've told you, the economy, technology, education, healthcare, and poverty reduction, anything you talk that you have, but it doesn't help unless all the three streams connect and converge into a policy window. It doesn't happen. And UPI and DBT have demonstrated it is possible in our country.
Yes.
And similar thing had happened, if you remember, 60s, green revolution. right?
Yeah.
Again, one person there is Professor M.S. Swaminathan, right?
Yeah.
But what happened afterwards? Agriculture, we couldn't have a similar kingdom model. Of course, kingdom model was not there because it came in 1984, but he could take care of he identified the problem. He was there on the policy stream. He was there on the problem stream. He was there on the politics stream. So that's why politics stream means he need not be a politician and all that. Politicians should probably recognize and probably have faith and trust that this is the good policy. Yeah. So I think we need to come out of this kind of public policy. I'm not blaming bureaucrats. I'm not blaming politicians. Each one can blame each other. But I think government should seriously look at in all the areas. Even today, of course, we have wonderful education policy. But again, ultimate decision needs to be taken. Then it will go to the implementation phase. And then there again, if there is no feedback loop, or if don't put that public policy education in the 3 streams, even today, it's not too late. So by the time when it comes, I think the policy making is over, and then you have this political stream is over. So the solution part of it, if all the 3 streams probably converge, we'll be able to do that. I think education is, because we have again given targets, we want GER, quantitative, we want 100% GER for up to higher secondary, 50% for the college education, higher education. So all fine, but we need to probably look at what are the other ecosystem that we need to build. Am I clear? This public policy, it looks very heavy. I don't know.
No, it's
I want to take you as technology. Pardon?
Yeah, it's fine. So I basically I wanted to ask, using this public policy, we have created UPI and DBT, correct? And you said Nandan has been able to get this through. So like, what were the challenges that he faced? A couple of them, I think you mentioned some of them, but it'll be good to know for the audience, what are the challenges maybe Nandan faced or somebody else faced, and he could push this through completely?
So first of all, I think he looked beyond technology. So if you don't have public policy, we have some areas, where it took years, like Competition Act took 11 years, Right to Information took 15 years. And then even some compulsory education took 16 years. And prohibiting child labor took 25 years. Even microfinance public policy took 14 years. Food security took 25 years.
Wow.
So this problem is, if you don't have clear the cobwebs and see it from a narrow angle of some changing process, it will not happen.
Yeah.
So what I think, I can't speak for him, it is for him, he has to explain to it, but the way I see it from my side, having been involved with IDRBT or NPCI, whatever it is. So right from day one, I think he has identified, I think it's not enough to identify a problem and find a solution, because the technology is a done thing for him. We never talked about technology in the initial phase. What is important is he has to get the regulator and the government on board. Otherwise, it's not possible. So he has that energy, he has that network, he has invested all his probably time, resources, his own reputation, I'm sure, must be on the line in case it doesn't succeed. So he probably, I think, traversed all these 3 streams. So as I said, that he started with the bankers. In fact, in the first meeting when he presented to the bankers, many of them have probably gone over their heads. What is the solution? Does it work? What is he talking, right?
Yeah.
He did like a hackathon, let me be very frank, from day one. So first meeting, everyone, you have heard that, I would say the smart people from the payment system, the private sector, foreign bank, all were there and all that. So that was the initial, probably kind of, refrain that these people had. But first of all, he had to convince there is a problem, there is a solution. He has to convince the bankers themselves first, right? That he did. And then obviously regulator has to give his stamps, because we have a Payment and Settlement Act, right? You can't have any product or a settlement system, because the final settlement takes place at RBI. So you need an approval from that. So I'm sure we had a lot of presentations and all that to get the regulator on board. And they were also willing to go along. And then, of course, the government departments, we have DBT, we have PMO and all that. So all these 3 could converge and he could sell the benefit, because Aadhaar, how did he succeed for Aadhaar, right? we all know how many challenges were there, the legal challenges, the political challenges, right?
Yeah.
We have think tanks, public intellectuals. But now we have seen the probably the advantage on which the entire India stack was built, which financial institutions are probably using it. So the secret to success is you look beyond technology. Of course, there are brilliant people, a set of volunteers probably would come work day and night to design and architect. And he also had a wonderful architect who had architected the solution, because design himself has done it. I don't think he has delegated. And he started from ground zero with a whiteboard and chalk and say that, okay, this is the workflow now you're doing. Can we do this workflow? Lot of iteration and all that. So when once they are convinced, it's easy to convince the regulator, it's easy to convince the government and all. Similarly, education, we have this policy. Who would play that role? I would call them what is called, this public policy. There are three actors. Let me also tell you. Number one is policy entrepreneur. We know only business entrepreneurs, right? Policy entrepreneurs. Then there are political entrepreneurs. And then there is social business entrepreneurs. We know the business entrepreneurs and all. So political entrepreneur, of course, is taken in a more negative sense kind of thing. But a political entrepreneur, if he takes with a zeal like a business guy, okay, I find this is the problem. This is the solution. If you implement it, not that government will make profit and all, but it improves the lives of the citizens. So if he has the same entrepreneurial abilities, capabilities, competencies, a politician, I think it makes a lot of difference to the development of this country. And I see Mr. Nilikani played, but as I said, I don't have permission to interpret his kind of what he has done and all.
Yeah, correct.
But that's how I see it.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So three important actors that are important. Policy entrepreneur is a new concept. So what he does is basically a policy entrepreneur. You should be able to identify a problem. You should be able to find a solution. Yeah. And then get to these what I say the political level and the regulatory probably domain, and you should be able to resolve all, a policy entrepreneur. So we need that kind of policy entrepreneur in the area of healthcare, in the area of even education. So I think we need to work on that. If you ask me healthcare, who can do that, one name that comes to me like Mr. Devi Shetty, right? So we have Shankar Netralaya, or we have Arvind Eye Care, a couple of them. They are all social enterprises, right?
So we will come to the health a little later. I think we've discussed thoroughbred on the entire policy, public policy in this thing. I need to break a little bit because I need to get some questions across to you from my participants. Okay, so participants, please put in your questions. I already have a couple of them, and you may also want to ask a question directly. Sorry, because the topic was so interesting, we couldn't break it in between. Hence the delay in announcing this, that you can ask the questions or put in the questions. So I have the first question from YouTube. It says, sir, how can fintech startup build a lending model for servicing the undeserved and bring them into mainstream credit ecosystem with banks and NBFCs? If I'm not mistaken, this has come from Mr. Prasad Palancha.
Yes, this is one opportunity. Already there are a number of startups who are doing digital lending. Because today the India Stacks helps you, because all the 4 layers, your identity layer, and then your paperless layer of your authentication system and all, and then the cashless layer. And now we have got the aggregator layer. Now Nandan Nilikani has recently announced that he's going to also probably put one more layer of this credit network, right? So how do you do the customer acquisition is the issue, right?
Yeah.
And then of course they said, you aggregator means you can get all the financial data from any of them, banks, GST, or whatever is doing that. But let me tell you from experience of 40 years experience, I'm not discouraging anyone. The easiest thing is to lend, and the most toughest thing is to recover money.
Yes.
Whether it is individual or kind of a thing. One, you need the deep pockets. And then I don't think one should start this from a valuation perspective.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity provided you are prudent, you take care, and don't judge your success by just lending. Judge your success by your ability to recover.
Right, sir. Thank you. So we were talking about the public policy and the health that we were talking about. So health conditions and degree of education. These are two topics. Attainment are indicators of economic performance, and I think that's very rightly said. So what are your views on what should be done to create successful public policy models in education and health sector, just like we have successfully done with UPI and DBT?
So again, if you want to probably replicate the success of UPI and DBT, if you have to probably put them into kind of little strategic perspective, there are 5-6 things about UPI and DBT. One is the purpose, second is scale, third is the speed, fourth is the impact, fifth is the price, right?
Yeah.
And then ultimately your ability to sustain all these things and be able to find. So let me come to these healthcare. See, the biggest problem is the shortage of doctors and healthcare workers in our country, right? How do we make them to reach? So one is the digital channel. Already even the small countries we have seen, it's not about telemedicine and all that. Even small African countries, health workers go to these small villages and all that. They collect the whatever data that is required for a doctor to probably diagnose and do it. And from the village itself, they transmit all that. Even before he comes in, doctor interacts with the patient and then he does it. So they're addressing the shortage of doctors this way. For instance, in our country, I understand there are about 7 lakh doctors. And some people say that we need about 1.5 million doctors. That's why we have this problem, corporate hospitals, and then many of these rural, even the semi-urban places, you don't get good quality advice and all. So one approach is like UPI DBT should follow a platform approach, platformification of the approach.
Yeah.
So what it does, it reduces the cost, it enhances the scale, it enhances the speed, and then you will be able to probably cater to a large section of audience here. So I think idea is that we need to go the platform approach. Already there are, of course, certain initiatives, private fintech, I would say health tech kind of companies are there, where they're aggregating a lot of doctors, and then we can go online and we choose our own doctor, right? Based on his credentials and all. So I think it is happening in bits and pieces, but there is all private effort. So if you want a public good policy, I think this is where the government needs to step in. Instead of saying that, okay, our public healthcare is not good, of course, the COVID further exposes these problems and all. Not that, okay, we can't do public area, that give it to private. Well, private has a role to play. I'm not against that. But I think government health ministry should create these platforms. Like the government has done in the case of DBT, and the NPC has done for UPI.
Yeah.
So I think this is one way of addressing these shortage of doctors. Similarly, healthcare workers are also short. And then this will also give a lot of opportunities for paramedics, healthcare workers, right? Instead of doctors going, even doing for checking temperature or some of these basic things and all that, paramedics can do. So we can provide employment to at least 2 to 3 lakhs of paramedics, provided it's all backed up by digital platform behind.
Okay. So I have another question coming to you. I think it's come from Twitter. It says that it is generally assumed that public policy is meant for government employees to make policies. That was the general notion that I think most people have. But now you're saying that that's not good enough. Okay, you need. So do we take this? His question is: do we take this out of the bureaucrats and create a platform where researchers and think tanks can come together and present to the government good public policies?
I think we have to learn to live with the politicians. We have to learn to live with bureaucrats. So I would go by the 3-stream approach. You need some figures who will be able to probably stride across all the three and converts these into a window. It is a wishful, I would say it is a wishful thinking that we can take it out of bureaucrats. We are not taking any of the boxes there, right? In the first two models we have seen. The third model, we have changed the order. Instead of saying that this is my domain, this is my box, I am in my box, instead of saying I am a stream, right? I think this is where a lot of education, awareness, I think needs to be done. I'm sure there are a lot of young IAS officers who are smart enough, who come with, engineering, IIT, science, they also are coming to this public service. Good, because we have seen that, your DBT or UPI could be, probably they could be brought on board. For that, I said, we need policy entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Everybody cannot be a policy entrepreneur. You need very high credentials, right? A record of performance, right? A trust level, trust in performance and trust in other things. So problem is in all these things, everyone is in a silo, right? This is my area. So bureaucrats will say, you will have technocrats, you will have subject matter experts, you will have some academicians. It's all that. You see in our own banking field, how many committees we have? We have Narsimhan committee, right? We have P. J. Naik committee. We have Sambamurthy committee. And then we have Kotak committee, Ganguly committee. And so problem is again, we are having that boxes approach, 3 stages, right? So we need to come out. Otherwise, I don't think we'll be able to, we'll go in circles.
Yeah, correct. There's also a saying that committees don't work. So anyway, we leave it at that. That's another topic for discussion. Tyag asked a question, why can't we have public good policy for creating large entrepreneurs than finding difficult for more employments, for creating larger employments for knowledge workforce?
No, of course, we have some social enterprises, right? I think last time with Ms. Vinith Roy has explained at great length the opportunities for the social enterprise, right? He was telling us some 400, 500 billion kind of opportunities. So they could be for profit, they may not be for not for profit. But today, even if you take that organization like NPCI, so it's provided employment to a large number of people. Say, oh, digital means people lose jobs, right? But it's not the case. In fact, after NEFT, RTGS gateway, I've seen at IDRBT every year we were recruiting more and more people because we are reaching more and more people. So we have reached only 100 million people. We have to reach 1 billion people. So we have to convert all these people into consumers. That should be the purpose of any payment system, be it UPI, be it something else.
Okay, I have another question to you from Pratik Mohanty. Should a separate payments regulatory board be constructed for regulating payments? If I can add, he also adds, also should payments now be considered a big enough talking point in budget provisions by Finance Ministry?
See, there is an upside and downside to it. Let me tell you.
Yes.
The downside I see is payment should not be seen as a lens, an independent lens. I said it need to be connected to the financial life of the person, right? So it's not that payment is done that he is out of the poverty. You can't say that he is financially included. I don't agree with that, right? Simply because he's able to do digital payment. So he should be able to save money. He should be able to probably borrow money, right? And then he should be able to have an insurance. He should be able to have a micro pension. So I think the payment by itself and as a standalone, I don't think the fintech has proved that it is a viable business. We have seen all of them are bleeding very heavily, right?
Yeah.
I don't say that some people, set up people come out of RBI and then become a regulator and all. But nowhere I said that ultimately we need a policy entrepreneur who could probably handle all the 3 streams: policy stream, problem stream, politics stream.
Yes.
So I don't think it makes huge difference. And then again, there'll be a complaint there is regulatory cholesterol, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, who are the people who are providing these services? Banks are also there, right? NBFCs are there. Ultimately,
but I thought he's making a good point that the budget provisions by the Finance Ministry could be through a public policy kind of this thing. I think that's a good point, right?
Yes, agree with that. They need to look at it. It is a good point. A good suggestion.
So I have one direct question coming to you from Tyagarajan. Tyag, can you please unmute and ask the question?
I have done, KK. I have just asked about the public good policy for employment. That is done already, sir.
Okay, that was yours. Okay.
Yeah, sorry for it. Yeah.
Okay, no problems. So that's done. So I think we have, come to the end of our show. It's already past 4 o'clock.
Sorry.
So ladies and gentlemen, I hope, this topic was of interest to you. It's a little kind of a more, depth topic, I would say, but it is so important for India. So so I would summarize it saying that though India is divided,
just take 1 minute, just take with your permission, just take one quick minute.
Sure.
Another potential area is agriculture. So what are our problems there? Low productivity, number one.
Yes. Yeah.
Number two, very highly volatile kind of production. If you see one year it will be +3, and another year -5, -1, and all that people suffer. So again, platformification is an approach that we need to do. So we all claim, we all take umbrage saying that our holdings are very small. That's why we're not doing. In fact, our per capita holding is 1.2 hectare, whereas in China it is only 0.6. So they add 800 billion. Agriculture sector adds 800 billion to GDP. We add only about $350 billion to GDP. So I think this is again an area where you have a platform approach, and then across the value chain, right from soil testing to probably seeds, fertilizers, and then harvesting, marketing, transportation, storage. I think if you have a platform approach, I think this is one area, I think, again, a public good policy, we need it. I think this one area, I think, health, agriculture, education, probably if we handle all these things in the 3-stream framework, I think we will see good results. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. No. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end of this show on public policy and how well it was utilized to get things like the UPI and the DBT, which is so very successful. So in India, it's very important because India is divided by caste, religion, region. These divisions have persisted largely due to lack of structural and organized linkages between the policymakers and the academia. So it's always been that they are something doing on their own. Finally, it is implemented for the public. So now we are talking about a public policy where we say that everybody is involved before you come to making a public policy. So the involvement of people who utilize the policies of government, aided by think tanks, researchers, and eminent subject matter experts, are not occupying a seat in government is a welcome sign in India. It's so good for the citizens of the country that diverse views are considered before a policy is implemented and not left in the hands of a few bureaucrats or close to the government people. It's everybody's views are considered so that we have a good policy, a good thing for the people of the country. And that's the importance of public policy. With that, I sign off for the day. Please join me in thanking Mr. Murthy for coming over, spending a wonderful time on this topic. Thank you for the slides also, Mr. Murthy. It was very well explained by you on how important public policy is. I wish you a good evening, and thank you all for today's participation in today's today's show. Look forward to meeting you tomorrow at 3 p.m. India time. Bye-bye.
Fine, thank you. Hope it's not heavy.
It's okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.